Hey guys, Tyler Berger here with BassFishingHQ. Doing something a little bit different today. I have a tournament on this lake tomorrow. I have about 4 hours to pre-fish for this tournament. Just thought I'd take you guys along, kind of show you how I pre-fish for a tournament. Interesting thing though today is that I actually don't have a working motor. As you can see, it's actually, you might think that I'm idling right now, but there's no sound. Luckily, I got a trolling motor that'll pull me about 3.3 miles an hour. That's gonna help a lot because I'm going all trolling motor today. Hopefully you guys will enjoy this video. Hope to throw a couple of good tips, you know, what I do when pre-fishing, especially the day before and especially when you don't have a lot of time. I think that's the majority of bass tournament anglers that don't have a lot of time before their tournament on the weekends. Hopefully we catch a couple. Hopefully it's a good time. Hopefully we figure something out. Stay tuned, it'll be a good one.
Have a prayer to win this tournament, trying to outfish guys that are within 20 yards of you at all.
Going to Jason Christie, I said, are you trailing up there? He said, no, I don't think it's all that far. I said, no, it's a lot farther than you think. And you're exactly right. See, it's not all that far. Zigzagging around these bends and back and forth.
I knew I was about to catch one there. It's a pretty nice smallie too. A lot of bait right up in that little gut there. Man, that sucker choked that guy. You know, one of the biggest keys when you're pre-fishing is to cover water efficiently. That's one of the biggest keys in bass fishing, is covering water efficiently. In the springtime, like I'm fishing here, one of the best ways to cover water is a crankbait. You always want to use some sort of search bait when you're practicing, because that's the best way to cover water. You don't have to catch every single fish that's in that area. You just want to catch a couple, see if there's some fish in the area, and then you can slow down during the tournament. There's another one right there. A largemouth there. This is a tip that I think if people could understand it, they would do a lot better in tournaments. I just caught about a 3-pound smallmouth right over there. Now here I am, I just caught a largemouth on kind of the next point over, like literally the first or second cast. I also saw some bait here, so I'm literally done fishing this little area, right? I know that it has potential. I know that that's not a giant fish by any means, but it is a keeper on this lake. I also can see there's a point there, there's a point there, there's a rock point back there that I kind of skipped over. Those are all areas I can pick up fish. I don't want to go and catch every single fish that's in this little area. I just want to know, is there potential? And I saw bait, and I saw a big fish, and I saw another fish. So there's definitely potential here. So I'm not gonna fish anymore. I'm gonna keep moving on, try to find some more different areas. That's how you go about tournament fishing, especially the day before tournament. I don't wanna sore mouth all these fish. I don't need to catch every single fish that's in this area and let that guy go. I just wanna see the potential and know if I can catch some fish, and that's really it. So keep that in mind, guys. Don't wear out, don't crack every bass that's in that area. You wanna save those fish for the tournament. I knew that there would be a fish right there. Dude, that was, I mean, just one. Sets up exactly, oh, he just popped off of there. Phone was ringing, wasn't really able to kind of set the hook on that fish. I just found another little, really small point that is exactly like what I just caught those other 2 fish off of. If you look right up there, you just got some shallow water rock. So literally the first cast on that little rock area, I hook into a fish. My phone was ringing, so I was trying to answer it quick and lean into that fish at the same time. and I did end up getting a good hook in that fish. I didn't see how big it was, but it seemed to be about a 2-pounder, which again, for this lake, that's a decent fish. Now I'm starting to figure out a pattern. You know, sometimes after I catch a few fish in an area and I feel like that area has potential, one of the things that I like to do is literally just kind of visually look at that area, especially if it's, you know, a shallow water deal. You know, kind of look around the area. There's fish in that area for a reason. What else might they be attracted to? What else could I catch fish on? So usually I do that with the big motor. Like I said, don't have the big motor today. So right now I'm just kind of going around this general area where I just caught those 2 fish. And I'm just kind of scope out what other things basically set up just like where I caught those 2 fish. I love just looking during the practice and being able to come back and fish those areas in the tournament where I feel like I'm fishing fresh, and that's what you want. There's another fish. Same deal, guys, same deal. Got a little rocky point. I decided to make a couple more casts on this area because I couldn't tell how big that fish was, and I mean, just a few casts later, another keeper, decent largemouth. So definitely establish a pattern. I definitely know what I'm looking for now, so now I just got to try to find more of it. Same deal. What is that? It's a large head. Same deal. Interesting. You know, I've heard before that 1's a fluke, 2 is a coincidence, and 3 is a pattern. Within the last 30 minutes, we've actually had 5 bites, caught 4 fish, all doing the exact same thing. So definitely got a good pattern going. There is another one. There's a little bit, there's a better one right there, guys. Gosh, I shouldn't have even made a cast. Yep, that's a little bit better one there. Well, there you go, guys. Feel like I definitely understand what's going on. That is a solid fish there for this lake. Super solid. That's what it's all about, guys, is putting the puzzle together. Establishing a new pattern. This is actually something I've never done here at this lake before, so definitely fun to do something you haven't done. Well, let's go find a little bit more of it. What I'm doing right now is basically I'm trying to find other patterns or maybe even more of the same stuff in a general area. I like to keep things tight because that way I can really maximize my time out there on the water. Is you don't want to spread yourself out in a tournament, right? You don't want to have fish on one end of the lake and fish way on the other end of the lake, especially if it's a single day tournament. You know, maybe for instance, all these fish had kind of been on the points, and maybe if I go back in the pockets of some of these points, there might be some wood that I can flip. Something like that, you know, where it's like, man, you can really find a few patterns in a small area and really maximize that waters. That's just a tip that I'm thinking of right now as I'm going in between a couple of different areas with the trolling motor. So, all right, stay tuned. There's another one, guys. Doing something a little bit different this time. Just a keeper size fish, but kind of like what I was saying is sometimes once you find an area where you're getting a lot of bites doing one thing, kind of explore some different patterns, because you might find a different pattern. You know, you might find a pattern that works at a different time of the day, whether that's flipping. I'm still using that same crankbait, but I actually caught this bass on the back on some riprap. There's a couple other riprap type areas on this lake that I might be able to catch more fish. Just another thing, I'm trying to establish a couple of patterns. Cool. There we go, guys. Trying to establish different patterns. There's another fish. Another keeper, not a giant. I did like what I was doing because I was flipping a jig, and I feel like if I flip a jig, I'm gonna get big bite. I just caught a fish on the riprap bank in the back of this corner. I stopped fishing it. I saw some wood laydowns, came over here, and the very first one I came to, I caught another fish. And so, guys, that tells me there's fish in this area. And guess what? There's a lot of laydowns over here. So I'm not even gonna fish any of these. Again, kind of like what I was talking about earlier, I'm gonna save all these laydowns for the tournament. I don't wanna go through and get bit on all these or even show a bass my bait. I just wanna come back in the tournament, flip them, and hopefully get bit. My 3.5, 4 hours is up. I hope you guys learned something from this video, really about preparing for a tournament, your local tournament. I just had a few hours out here to fish. It took me a couple of hours to kind of dial in everything, but I figured out that pattern with that little crankbait, and then I kind of established a couple of other things. You know, I think flipping a jig and some laydowns might be a deal. I would have loved to have more time doing that, but I simply don't have the time today, so I'm gonna have to experiment with that tomorrow. Another really important thing, and this is the last thing I want to say before I kind of get off here, I caught those fish mostly on a crankbait today, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna catch them on a crankbait tomorrow. I may have found some areas where those fish are, but I might have to catch them in a different way tomorrow. Maybe it's dragging something like a Ned rig or a shaky head, or maybe it's using a spinnerbait if it's really windy. The night before the tournament, I always like to tie on these what if baits. What if it's really hot and still? What if it's really windy? Because you always want to be prepared. Sometimes the fish are still in those areas. They're not reacting to the same lures that you caught them in during practice, so you have to adjust. And having those lures already tied up on the front deck really helps you to do that adjustment really quick, and you're already thinking about it. Just keep that in mind. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like it. Please comment below if you have a question. Subscribe if you want to see the tournament video. So guys, I appreciate you watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.